So today, let's talk about a buzzword, or I should say buzz phrase, that is being talked about in almost every industry that we work with here at Leostream, and that's digital transformation. Everyone is going through some sort of digital transformation. But what exactly does that mean? Well, here's the definition that you can find online. Digital transformation is essentially adopting digital technologies to transform existing business processes. And that may be changing how you do your marketing. It could be just the culture of the company. It could be customer experience because you're going more online. What that means to you is different based on your industry and the type of business that you do. But how you go about doing it, the technologies that you'll use, and the things that you'll need to implement, a lot of those are kind of common. And that's kind of what I want to talk about here. So one thing that is very often adopted when you're going through some sort of digital transformation is a move to the cloud. People are either bursting up in the cloud for extra capacity, or it could be that there's just applications that they want to put in the cloud so that they can provide access to a more global workforce. So that's one type of digital transformation you may be going through, is moving up to the cloud. Another thing the cloud is great for, or other technologies for digital transformation, is ensuring business continuity. This has been a big topic over the last year or so. You want to ensure that users can continue doing their jobs and your business can continue doing its job in the face of any kind of event that might come around. Here it's been a pandemic, tomorrow it could be a hurricane, you never know. You want to use the digital technologies that are available to you to ensure your business continuity is in place and successful. Another great thing about digital transformation, it's really encouraging collaboration in new and exciting ways. A lot more is being done online. People can all collaborate. This isn't just talking about Zoom. This is actually working together. Maybe it's media and entertainment, post-production engineers who are collaborating on a session while they're actually located across the country. It's a great way to leverage digital transformation technologies, is to allow remote workforces to collaborate effectively. Now, of course, the key as you start looking at all these different technologies is really you need to enforce zero trust. You need to find a way to ensure that only the properly authorized users have access, and only to the different resources that you want to have them to have access to. So zero trust is a buzzword that goes hand in hand with digital transformation that you're going through. And the last thing about really this digital transformation, this whole environment that we're in right now, it's really about going hybrid. And in the past, I think we've always talked about hybrid as some on-premises resources and some cloud-hosted resources. But now hybrid can be just about anything. Basically, it means you have a mix of stuff. That could be what you're connecting to, on-prem versus cloud. It could be how you want to connect to it, RDP versus a high-performance display protocol versus some sort of streaming service. It could just be a hybrid in the sense of where your users are located. Some of them go back to the office, some of them are remote. Your environments are going to get, don't want to say more complicated, but they're going to be complex because you are going to be combining lots of different technologies together to support this digital transformation that you're going through. Now that's a lot. There's a lot to think about. You're going to have to put in business processes to make this work best for your organization. But one thing that you definitely need to include in those processes is a remote access plan. All of these, having access to cloud-based business continuity, you cannot put those systems into place if you do not have some sort of technology that is going to assist you with access, and in particular remote access. So why do I say that so strongly and in bold? Well, the role of your access manager, whether that's just connecting people or actually guarding remote access as well, you need to look for something that actually supports easy migration between the platforms. If your backend is hybrid, you want to be able to move, say, from an on-prem VMware environment to a public cloud such as Azure, or maybe then back to some physical hardware. You need to be able to do this easily in the IT department and make it seamless to your end users. That's one of the keys here. Now, if you are migrating between platforms and looking at going up to the cloud, now what you want is a tool that helps you manage those cloud costs. Certain workloads running in the cloud, anything that's GPU intensive, those will cost you a lot while they're running. So you want to find tools that allow you to automate cloud management. Maybe that's bursting up capacity only when it's needed. Maybe it's just powering the resource down when somebody's done with it. But if you have to manage that manually, your cloud costs are going to quickly come out of control. The third point here about what to look for connection management and remote access, obviously it's the remote access part. You need a tool that provides anywhere access. If your users are, now we're talking hybrid workforce, whether they're on-prem or working from home, working on the road, wherever they happen to be, you need to find a tool that can seamlessly give them access without having to look at VPN solutions. If there's one thing that we've seen over the past years is that VPN solutions quickly broke down as you got a larger and larger workforce working remotely and trying to tunnel their traffic through them. Talking more in that zero trust aspect of the digital transformation, the key for a remote access tool is access control. And that's there's two different aspects of that. One is securing the access, and that talks about authentication and multi-factor authentication. You need to really make sure that only the right people are gaining access to your systems. And then the second part is access control policies that you want to put in place to make sure once somebody is authenticated, they only get access to the particular parts of your data center or cloud environments that you want them to have access to. And then we talked about collaboration as being kind of a real big push for digital transformation. Obviously, your remote access tool, your interface that users are using to get to your resources, that needs to foster this kind of collaboration. And I'll show you some ways that you can do that, particularly using Leostream. So let me share my screen, and I'll just go through some of the ways that Leostream helps you with all of these. Share. And get rid of that guy. So this is the main administrator interface for the Leostream connection broker, and users can use this too. So you'll have one simple web interface where they can go to get access to everything. You can brand this however you like, change the colors, put your logos on there, knock yourself out. I'm going to sign in as the main administrator. And if you haven't seen this interface before, the way it works is essentially menus down the left. And what I always tell people is kind of start at setup and work your way down as you're configuring your Leostream environment. But I'm not going to go through a full demo. I'm just going to highlight some of the things that will be important for you to implement as you kind of wrap Leostream into your digital transformation. The first is your authentication servers. We talked about zero trust and authenticating access. Leostream gives you many different ways to implement authentication and multi-factor authentication so that you can do and use the systems that work best for you. Obviously, we see a lot of people using Active Directory for username and password. We do also support any authentication system based off of OpenLDAP. So if you have custom authentication servers based on OpenLDAP, that works great too. And if you are a Linux shop, we do handle Linux just as well as Windows and Mac OS. So for Linux, we do actually integrate with NIS if you happen to have that. Now, the authentication servers here, these are great for username and password authentication. They also can be used, you have an option on here to add SAML. So for zero trust, if you want to actually have Leostream front-ended by your corporate SAML-based identity provider, you can do that. And so that works great. They can log into their Okta and then get access to Leostream from there. It works. You can use your Gmail. Google works as a SAML-based authenticator with Leostream, for example. So you can use SAML for MFA. You can use Active Directory for username and password, but there are other ways to implement MFA within Leostream. So if we're talking about username and password as the first factor, Leostream does allow you to use different types of systems for the second factor. Namely, we have direct integration with Duo. So this is great if users are logging in from a web browser. They can use Duo. They'll get the little Duo push thing on their phone. And then if you want to use any other system that we don't have the built-in integration like we have for Duo, essentially you can use the Radius protocol. So here I happen to have, this is an Okta Radius agent that we've installed on-prem. And then it talks to our corporate Okta account. So I can use Okta either by entering a one-time token or doing the push notifications as well for the second factor. So there's the first way that Leostream is going to help you. It's going to help you secure the access, make sure only the correct users get into the system in the first place. Now let's talk about what are they connecting to. In Leostream, what you create are centers, and centers are the third-party platforms where you're hosting all of the different assets that you want users to have access to. The great thing about Leostream is it's basically a single portal where your users have access to all these things. So whether that be any of the big three clouds, maybe you want to invest in some OpenStack technology so you can leverage the open sourceness of that all. Red Hat virtualization, different hyperconverged infrastructures, VMware, the list goes on. Essentially, we want you to be able to pick the platform that works best for your use cases, mix and match them as appropriate, and then migrate easily between them. So for example, right now I might be running my VMs in vCenter, but perhaps I want to move them up to Azure or AWS. From the user's perspective, they never know that happens because all you'll do is change your broker configuration for their policy, and then they go to their new resource, completely seamless for the end user. So centers help you with that migration expansion capability. Let's flip over to configuration here, and let me just show you a few things here. First, talk about pools. Pools, I mentioned cloud cost controls, and if you want to burst into the cloud, you need to have ways to automate that so you don't inadvertently increase your cloud compute costs. Leostream pools give you ways to do that. So if I just kind of show you an example here, I could create a pool in AWS, and I'll make it center, create AWS. So now I've got a pool, which is everything in my AWS center, which happens to be a particular region, in this case, US East. And then down here, you can enable provisioning in pools. And this gives you ways to say, how many resources do I want in this particular pool? So nominally, I could have no resources running in the pool. But if I have users that I know are going to start work at, say, 9 a.m., I can actually come in here and provision out new resources for them just while they're in the office. And so now those machines are there while they're working, and at 3 p.m. in this case, the machines would be torn down, so I'm not paying for the compute cost. So there's these great ways for you to expand and contract automatically the capacity in the cloud using Leostream pools. And that works for all. I'm doing an AWS example here, but that works for all three cloud vendors, AWS, Azure, Google Cloud Platform, also OpenStack and VMware. I know it's not cloud, but. So pools, key for controlling compute costs in clouds. Another thing to look at when you're talking about hybrid environments and digital transformation is, as I mentioned, how do you connect users to the resources that are hosted wherever you want to host them? You do that by selecting the display protocol they're going to use. Now, Leostream, we provide a built-in HTML5 VNC and SSH client. It's built into our Leostream gateway. It's great for clientless access. Clientless access is great for BYOD initiatives. Now people just have a browser and they can connect to their desktop. So we do provide that kind of built-in functionality, but we also integrate with a number of third-party display protocols, just like we integrate with a number of centers and hosting providers. So here, depending on your use case and the workloads that your users need to run, perhaps you just want to connect using RDP. Maybe you want to use a more performant protocol like HPZ Central Remote Boost, No Machine. This is great if you're connecting to Mac OS. Nice DCV. This is great if you're in AWS. TGX, this is a great high performance protocol we see a lot in oil and gas. So you can see these different protocols, they kind of, I don't want to say cater towards certain use cases, but we tend to see them more. Nice DCV is great in AWS because the license is free there. HP Remote Boost is great if you're connecting to zCentral workstations because the license is included there. The thing with Leostream is that you can use the protocol that's best for each of these use cases and mix and match them together straight from this same platform. I mentioned that the web browser can also be used as a end user login. That's actually what I'll show you later here. The nice thing about that, not only does Leostream have its built-in HTML5 viewer, but we do integrate with a number of third-party HTML5 viewers as well. So you see 3 of them right there. These are more performant, but still give you that clientless access. So if you don't want to have to install software on the client, or you want to lock the machine down a little more, those are great options for you. So let me just skip right to policies here. So policies are ultimately how users get assigned to these pools of machines, and it's where you're going to associate the protocol plans, among other things, to the pools. So if I just look at it as an example here, I'm going to ultimately show you a user logging in with this particular policy, which assigns one machine that's going to connect via the no machine protocol and another one that's going to connect using the remote boost protocol. So a policy here, if I read down this section, it's saying how many machines do I want to assign out of this particular Linux no machine pool. So I'm going to assign one from that pool. You could potentially have a backup pool. You know, if we're talking about business continuity, if all of my Linux machines are hosted on-prem and I've had some sort of DR event on-prem, I can fail them over to a backup pool that's maybe running up in the cloud. So keep those things in mind. Here you notice, since I am offering a no machine out of this pool, there's actually this option here to enable collaboration and session shadowing. For certain protocols, and you see the list there, you can invite, through your Leostream login, other users to collaborate on your session. So this is great if you have, I mentioned post-production engineers, if you have two people who are in disparate locations in the country, they can collaborate easily online via their Leostream login. And you can even lock it down so that they can't just invite any Leostream user. Maybe they can only invite, for example, users that are working on their same project. So you have an LDAP attribute for those projects, and you can lock the invitations down that way. You can also, as your users are sending invitations via Leostream, you can have us send out emails. So the broker itself acts as an SMTP server and sends out the emails to users so they know when someone's waiting for them to join their session. So this policy, as I mentioned, does offer one machine from the Windows Remote Boost pool as well. So not only am I getting two protocols, I'm getting two different operating systems on the back end that I'm going to connect to as well. So here, Remote Boost is another protocol that supports collaboration. So I've enabled collaboration for that as well, and just changed my protocol plan to Remote Boost. So you can see now, if I'm a user and I'm offered this policy, if you need to change what the user has access to, I can just come in here and switch the pool. To them, as I mentioned earlier, they never know what's going on in the back. Easy, simple, seamless migration for the users. So just to show you how these policies are getting assigned, here in the assignments table, this is the assignments table associated with my AD, my Active Directory Authentication Server for Leostream. Happens to be how I'm going to log in here. So basically, this reads based on what group the user is in and the location they're coming from. That determines if they need to go through MFA. What we've seen a lot is people tend to have users who are remote require MFA, but if I'm on-prem, I don't need. And so you have that flexibility here through the assignments page. So if all of these things are true, I'm in a group, I'm in a location, and I've passed MFA if required, then I get a role in a policy. So the policy gives me those pools that we were talking about. The role is great for providing role-based access to this entire interface. So if you have groups of users who are responsible for managing people's desktops, you can give them access to just a page that shows the list of desktops so they can reboot the machines or maybe connect to the user session. So that's handy. The role also is important for giving collaborative support for the users. So to enable someone to invite other Leostream users, there's a role option in Leostream you must enable. So to show you what this looks like from a user's perspective, here now I'm logging into the same interface, but I'm going to sign in as me, as an end user. So you see, these are the two machines. I got that Linux no machine, and I got a Windows Remote Boost machine there. So I can actually come in here and connect to them if I want. So that's going to launch the no machine client. And this is a Linux machine. So I'm going to see the Linux login screen there in the background, and I can log in here. Now, what we've often seen with Linux is people don't want the single sign-on to the remote operating system, because oftentimes you have a different login to the Linux machine than you have for your Active Directory, say, for example, in Leostream. And so people actually want to be able to go in there and enter different credentials, and Leostream will track that the user that's logged into the operating system is associated with the user that's logged into Leostream. Now I also have this Windows remote boost machine. So I can click that, connect, and this will launch the RGS session, or remote boost, I should say, in this case. And there it goes. Now I have these all opening up. Oops, that one opened off screen. I have them opening up small so that I can see the screens behind, but you can, through your protocol plans in Leostream, configure how that connection is done, if it's full screen, multi-screen, whatever you have. So now that I'm connected here, you notice there's these invite links. So here's where I can actually come and invite users to collaborate on my session. I can maybe put an expiration time and then write them a note if I want. Join my session. And as I mentioned, maybe even send them an email so that they know it's going. So here I see my invitation, so I can actually view it to see what the information I entered in there. I can cancel it if I've changed my mind. Now for the user who was invited, I'm going to use a different browser type here because that looks like a different client to Leostream, and log in as Milo in this case. So Milo happens to not have any desktops of his own to connect to, but he does have the invitation for that remote section here, or that for that collaboration invitation, I should say. Same thing, he can view it if he wants. I can connect to it, and I can even say, you know what, I'm not able to connect to this right now. I'm going to decline it. And then in this case, actually, I have it set up so that I got an email now saying Milo's declined that invitation, and I can go back and say, hey, why'd you do that? So a handy tool, particularly with a remote workforce or a globally distributed workforce. So that is just some examples of how Leostream as a connection management and remote access platform can help you accomplish some of the workflows that you want to put in place as you're going through this digital transformation. If you want to learn more, try it out yourself. We do have free trials. We can give you a more in-depth demo. All you have to do is contact us at sales@leostream.com. Thanks.